Our special guest this evening is Dr. Yasmin, and I think I spelled your name wrong. Didn't you have two E's? I apologize. Um, anyway, we have a special guest, and we're going to just go quickly through the stuff we do every week, every time, and then we'll give it over to Dr. Yasmin. So we're connecting, we are MAAC, we're connecting people with aphasia, including our caregivers and care partners. We meet 2 times each month on Zoom, second Mondays for support group and for special guests. We also meet on the fourth Mondays, 7 p.m., for conversation group with Ask the Expert and other activities and guests. 4 times a year, quarterly, on the Zoom, MAAC goes abroad, but we stay on the Zoom. So you know what I mean. We've been to Paris and soon we're going to Colombia. So we actually visit with friends with aphasia across the globe. Our guidelines: we are respectful and sensitive to one another. We give time for others to speak. We aim to use aphasia-friendly communication. We ask everyone to please mute your microphone unless it is your turn to speak.
Okay.
We do not give medical advice, and we do not promote political or religious discussions. The next one. Now we're ready. I would like to introduce to you Dr. Yasmin Faroqi Shah. She's a PhD. She does a lot of, she's had over 25 years of aphasia research, and she is ready for your questions, your thoughts, all about aphasia. All for you, Doctor.
Thank you, Denise, for the warm and lively introduction. I'm very happy to be with all of you, and I'm also happy to see some familiar faces, people I've worked with before. So, and either way, my adult life has been dedicated to working with people with aphasia to improve their lives. So it's always a happy day for me when I'm able to meet people with aphasia and their families. You're welcome to ask questions. If you're comfortable posting them in chat, you can do that. Or you can raise your hand. I will look at the window or somebody else will, and we'll answer those questions. This morning, Denise sent me some questions, so I'm going to start with those first. And I had also prepared some questions in advance. So we will go over them, but there is no strict agenda. The idea is to answer your questions from a scientific perspective. So what evidence do you have? So I'm going to start sharing. Um, I'm going to start with the questions that Denise asked this morning, and then I have a few other questions. But like I said, feel free to put more questions in the chat or just speak them out so that, if you don't want to type. So the first question, so here are some questions that Denise asked. And I'm sure she compiled them from other people as well. So one of the questions was, what should friends and family know about communicating with people with aphasia? Very important question. I'm going to answer that next. Then she asked, how frequently should people with aphasia test for speech, cognitive, MRI, those kinds of things? Then how to decide what to prioritize when people with aphasia have many challenges. Then she asked, what strategies are effective for auditory processing? And then she asked, what steps are speech pathologists doing to increase awareness? And this is one that I already had. Can you improve after 2 years? So here are the questions. Then I have other questions. So I'm just showing all the questions we can get to today,
Mhm.
so that, if there are new questions, feel free to post them. So one is, can drugs boost language recovery? What about brain stimulation techniques, stimulating the brain? What about music? What about mindfulness, stress reduction, and how much therapy is enough? And then, of course, the timeline. Can you improve even after many years? So we have all these questions, but I'm going to go with the first question, which is, what do friends and family need to know about communicating effectively? Do we have any friends and family today, or are we all people with aphasia?
I'm a family.
Oh, wonderful. Nice to meet you, Florence. Um, so this is actually a very
I'm
important
family.
question. One more, someone else?
Yes.
Me too.
Nice to meet you, Dorothy. So it's a very important thing to know for friends and family to know how to communicate. And because communication and conversation is a two-way street, right? So both of us need to adjust. Both people with aphasia as well as people without aphasia need to adjust how they communicate. So if you go to a speech pathologist, and you might have gone to one very early in your journey. And I know speech therapy doesn't get covered by insurance for a long time, so one has to stop. But typically, a speech pathologist should not only address the person with aphasia, they're also, in a holistic way, they're required to address the environment. And the environment includes friends and family. So what we call here, I'm using a word, communication partner training. So friends and family members are communication partners, right? That's a very important part of therapy. So the next time somebody is newly diagnosed with aphasia and you have a chance to help them or advise them, do ask that they ask their speech therapist about training for friends and family, because that's really important. Sometimes a speech therapist might just focus on the person with aphasia, and the friends and family also think, well, fix this person, they have the aphasia. But no, everybody needs to be fixed, right? We all need to adjust. So one thing we know, very, very old research has been over 25 years, that actually training friends and family as well as strangers is very, very effective in helping the burden of communication. So there is evidence, and there are quite a few studies that show that training, and both these trainings were like 1 day long or 1 weekend long, like, 2 full days. So we're not talking about months and months of training, just like the key aspects. There is evidence that it works. Okay, so what should definitely ask for it if you have the chance. Now here today, what can we say how to communicate? What should they know? One, I think sometimes mistake friends and family may make is that, well, the person with aphasia has difficulty speaking, so let me insist that they should speak, that they should practice their speech, right? That sometimes they kind of push them to speak. What we need to know is there are limits on speaking fluently. Depending on the person with aphasia, it's different for different people. And so if somebody has um, a moderate to severe aphasia. So their aphasia is a little more severe. This is especially, you see this in the early stages. Then what friends and family should do is they should remember that communication is not only speaking, right? Communication includes your face, your gestures, writing, drawing, everything. So when somebody has severe aphasia, moderate severe aphasia, parents and family should encourage all modalities. The point is we need to communicate. It doesn't always have to be through the mouth. That's important. When people have milder aphasia, like many of you here today, then it is worthwhile to practice more your speaking, right? So whether we use many modalities. By modality, we mean drawing, writing, gestures, apps, speaking apps. That depends on how severe the aphasia is. And that's important for friends and family to know, because we don't want the person with aphasia to feel frustrated. Every time there's a conversation, if you say use your mouth, they're going to get frustrated. That's the hardest thing for them to do. The next thing here, again, in modalities is find out what helps that person the most. It's different for different people. Some people might be helped with writing. You write out what they need. Some people might be helped with gestures. It's different. So ask the person with aphasia, give them the respect, give them the authority, and say, what do you want? How can I help? Some people with aphasia say, don't help me. I want to try it myself. Some people with aphasia will say, help me, help me get through this conversation. So respect their feelings. And so ask them, what do they want to help? What do they want help with? Now, the next question is how to speak with a person with aphasia. I have a more detailed information on the next slide, but basically use a quiet space, because when there is background noise, it increases the work your brain has to do, and therefore that actually makes it harder to speak and understand. So use a quiet space, face the person, um, provide a context. So rather than say, okay, let's take the taxi or something like that, provide the context that we are going to the movies and it's time to take the taxi. So give some background information. Don't just jump onto the topic. Each sentence should have one idea. That's it.
And I think there's
And
a
then,
question. I think there's a question right now. Gordon, do you have a question?
Yes, thank you. If it's okay,
sure.
Doctor. Yeah, I was just wondering, just so you know, I had my stroke 12 and a half years ago, and God has healed me for the most part compared to where I was the first several years, 6.5 years. Uh, well, I wrote it down. Give me just a second. I'm trying to think. I just jotted down a question. Well, um, I can remember. I was just curious when you were talking about uh, communication partner training. I had very little direction early on, and I didn't have, I was single again, and I didn't have a caregiver. I didn't have my neurologist. I didn't see, uh, I guess, for 5 months. I just didn't have any direction, like I said, and so I'm just wondering. This is really helpful, by the way, and for a caregiver to get that kind of training, I was just curious where could they get that? All right, and how would they find out about it? And then what would the cost be for somebody to get, even if it's just for an hour of training, would definitely help uh, uh, a non-pathologist, much less a doctor.
Good, yeah, very good question. So yes, many of us are, many of you are out of speech therapy phase right now. So the question is, where can we get communication partner training? There are, um, there is a, I will start with the paid option, then we'll go to the free option, which actually MAAC is probably going to organize soon. There is in Canada, Aphasia Institute. And Aphasia Institute is run by, if you see on the slide, you see this person, Kagan, back in 2001. She was the first person to do a clinical trial on communication partner training. So she runs the Aphasia Institute and they provide training um, for friends and families. So I do assume that they charge. There's something with it. I don't know the exact fees. So that's an option. The other option is MAAC and I are planning to collaborate and offer a training perhaps in July, I think. Mark would know better. Mark and Denise would know better. But we are planning to do a training. The University of Maryland, where I work, I've developed a training and we've done it many times. We've done it free of cost just to, help and give back to people with aphasia and their families. So we hope to do that in July over 2 sessions. So yes, so in July, if you stay tuned, we will offer it through MAAC as well. We could also make some handouts. I'm happy to make some handouts with tips. And I might move to the next slide where we actually have one strategy called focused. There are many others, but I'm happy to, when my semester ends, make a handout that you can then give to friends and family. I will give you the example of my father who had Parkinson's disease. And I made a handout for him about tips for friends and family. And he had it laminated, he kept it in the living room. And when people visited him, he gave them the handout so that they knew what strategies to follow and what would help him. So that's also a good tool where you can use it to give to others and say, here, this is what helps me. And you could make it on your own in terms of what helps you. Um, so here is, I wanted to just jump back, uh, how to understand, and then I'm going to go to the next slide. Definitely when the family members need to show their emotion and share their respect with the person with aphasia because it's frustrating. And so the friend and family member could say, I know this is hard. I know you have something important to say, and I'm interested in what you say, right? So that's really important. And then if the person with aphasia spoke in a way that you didn't understand what they said, then you can repeat what you think you understood, right? So the family member could say, I think you're talking about tomorrow's doctor's appointment. Is that correct? Right? So you can fill in the blanks and kind of ask that. So on the next slide, there are many such acronyms. So see focused, FOCUSED. That's an acronym. This was first developed again in the 1990s for people in caregivers in retirement facilities, for people with, any kind of communication problem. And they made this, it's very easy to remember, put it on your refrigerator, have your friends and family use it. So these are the strategies. Face to face. So F stands for face to face the person. Orient. Orient is the same as the context I mentioned earlier. Repeat what you're talking about, repeat keywords, repeat the sentence exactly rather than rephrasing it. Give them time to comprehend what you're saying. Continue. That is, don't jump from topic to topic. Continue this on the same topic as long as possible. When we continue on the same topic, our conversation is more fulfilling. It feels like we got our say. So that's continuity. Unsticking is if the person is stuck on a word, give them the word so that they can move on with the conversation rather than like quiz them, like, you said it yesterday. Why don't you say it today? Just because communication is more important than the speaking with the mouth, right? Structure, give them ask your questions in a way that is easy to answer with a yes or no, or, do you like pizza or pasta? Like, give the choices so that the person with aphasia can repeat it. Exchange, keep it normal, like two adults would talk, right? Keep it like that. Don't treat the person like a child. And then keep sentences direct and so on. I really like this focused, and because it's an acronym, you can think F is face, O is orient, and so on. So this is one example of a strategy you could use. Can I move to the next question? Here is another question that was asked. There are many things needing improvement after a stroke, speech, reading, math, etc. How does one prioritize? Typically, Comprehension, the ability for the person with aphasia to understand day-to-day conversation, that's the highest priority. Everybody will have some difficulty with comprehension when it's noisy, when they're tired. We're talking about they need to be able to understand your day-to-day conversation, basic things. So if a person has trouble both speaking and understanding, that's affecting their daily communication. Understanding is the highest priority. You want to get to a conversational level. The goal is to be able to follow conversations. And then also we need to teach the friends and family to adapt the environment for the comprehension to be easy. So use low noise, turn off the TV, face the person. Again, you can use focused, the strategies that we had before. The next way, how do you prioritize, is what has the most impact for your daily life, right? Now, each person with aphasia is different. They have different strengths and weaknesses. And the question is, what is your life like today? And let's say today, let's just say, I'm just imagining today, I am a parent. I have two children in middle school, and my priority is, let's just say, I'm saying as a person with aphasia, my priority is to be able to help my children, take them to school, drive, communicate with their teachers, have some time for myself. So you have to look at your life. The person with aphasia has to look at their life on a daily basis and look at what will help me improve my life today. And that's how we need to go. That has the most functional impact rather than think of long ago, before my stroke, I used to write computer programs, so I want to do that now. That's not how it works. You want to think about slowly improving your life, but again, talking about what will have the biggest change today. That's kind of how you want to do that. And then, of course, different people with aphasia have different strengths and weaknesses. Some people are really good at writing, but not at speaking. Some people are better at speaking, not at writing. Some people are better at like drawing, things like that, right? Each person is different. So you want to strengthen your strengths and use your strength. So if writing is your strength, then use writing to help you practice speaking. So that's kind of how you would prioritize in terms of goals.
If I could just say, after my stroke, one of the most useful things that the speech therapist did with me was help me make a schedule so that I could prioritize what I wanted to work on every day. And it was just very helpful that they did that.
Exactly, exactly. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Any other follow-up questions? Okay, let me go back to the questions that Denise asked. And then the new questions such as drugs and music and things like that. So evaluation, one of the questions was how frequently should we get tested for speech, cognitive, MRI, and so on? And you all know, you've all changed, right, over the years. And so we do want to know where our status is at this time. Among the three things that was mentioned, speech, cognitive, and MRI. So MRI, I would not retest. When you had your stroke, you got an MRI scan or a CT scan, and that shows the extent of the stroke. It changes very, very, very little over time. So there is no benefit to getting additional MRIs. It stays the same. The stroke stays the same. Whereas speech and cognitive, to know where your speech and cognitive status is. If you have the access ability, I think at least once a year is worth it, especially if you're working on these goals. Now, speech language pathologists can do both. They can do cognitive assessment. They can also do speech language assessment. So I would suggest once a year. Now, I know insurance doesn't cover it after that initial period. You can think about maybe approaching a university clinic. Usually university clinics do assessments, evaluation, and they do it at a lower cost because in a university clinic, they have the clinic to train their masters of speech pathology students. So it's usually at a lower cost. They even have like a sliding scale based on your income. At least that's how we do it at the University of Maryland clinic. Based on your income, the cost is different. So I would do once a year, especially if you are particularly interested in the next stage of your life. Like, okay, I feel like I'm able to, communicate, converse, have social skills. Now I want to be able to find a job. So, if I get a profile, then it can help me go to a vocational guidance counselor or something to, kind of help me find a, figure out what is the best fit for my strengths, right? So I would say, if possible, once a year for speech and cognitive, but I do understand in the United States, the access to speech language services is somewhat limited and expensive. But I would go the way of university clinics as they are more affordable. The other question that was asked was about auditory processing. What strategies are effective for auditory processing? So to clarify, auditory processing is not hearing loss, right? Hearing loss is when you wear a hearing aid and you can hear louder and better. Auditory processing is when you hear well, or maybe you have a hearing aid, you can hear it, but it's not really clear, or it's hard to understand. So that's auditory processing. A hearing test may not tell you that because you hear well, but then you have trouble understanding the sounds, understanding the language. So here, in this case, we want the person with aphasia to be their own advocate. They need to be able to explain to others that they have difficulty with understanding, with auditory processing. Now, as you know, when somebody has difficulty with speaking, it's very obvious, right? Because they're slow with words and things like that. But when they have difficulty with understanding, it's not visible. We can't see it or hear it. So whoever is the person with aphasia who has auditory processing difficulties, they need to have a script where they advocate for themselves. They need to say, I have aphasia, I have trouble with auditory processing. It helps me if, and have a list of things. It helps me if you look at me. It helps me if we talk in a quiet place, turn off the TV. It helps me if, it's going to be different for each person, but a person with aphasia can make a list with the help of their family, and they can use that as their advocacy, their self-advocacy, because others do not know that you're struggling with auditory processing, so you need to make them aware. Like I said, my father used to do, you can give them a slip of paper that says, these are the things that help me. And that will, be great. It would be great to, talk slowly, use one thing at a time, look at me and ask me for clarification. You can come up with your loved ones with what helps you, and then use that to advocate for yourself. The other question that Denise asked this morning was, what steps are speech pathologists doing to increase aphasia awareness? I think MAAC is doing a lot more to increase aphasia awareness than speech pathologists are doing. And that's not because we speech pathologists care less. It's just that the way the healthcare system works, you know, um, oftentimes speech pathologists are only paid for the session, and to do anything outside of that, their hospital or their clinic doesn't give them salary or anything like that. So some of them might do things extra on their own time over the weekends, but unfortunately, other than organizations like the National Aphasia Association, which I'm sure all of you know, or MAAC, or Aphasia Access, other than the organizations like this, speech pathologists themselves as a group are not doing much, unfortunately. But I know that some of them might go to the local police station or like something like that on their own to give the police, for example, some awareness of when they see a person with aphasia, what to do. But it's all very fragmented. There isn't anything systematic happening. Final question before I move on to the other questions is, can you improve after 2 years? The answer is yes. I have heard many people with aphasia say, oh, my neurologist said, I'm not going to change after 6 months. How many of you have heard that? A few, yeah. And I think that's a communication gap. What the neurologist is saying is that, the brain repairs itself. Like if I have a mosquito bite on my hand, my body repairs itself, right? It makes a little bruise and then it goes off on its own. So when the neurologist says 6 months, 2 months, whatever, they're talking about that automatic healing that the brain does. That is different from the improvement that happens with therapy, with practice, and all of that. And that continues up throughout your life. In fact, there are studies that have looked at time after stroke and when people get therapy, by how much do they improve? And so 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 years. I don't have the graph here, but I've seen those studies. The amount you can improve with therapy is the same. Whether you're 2 years after, 10 years after, it's the same amount that you can improve. So it doesn't mean that the longer you are after your stroke, the less your recovery. And I'm talking about recovery with training and therapy, not the automatic healing that the neurologist mentioned. I see. Are there questions in chat?
I just thought of one, doctor, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to know a source for books which are geared toward learning, not certainly not at your level, but nonetheless, for those of us who desire to continue to learn more, other than just doing lots and lots of research, which I enjoy doing, but it sure would be nice to know some helpful books, as long as they're not too thick.
And you mean helpful books for like self-help for people with aphasia?
Oh, exactly. Yes. I'm sorry.
I see. I see. Oh, you know what? I'm going to write that down for my homework and I'm going to get back to you. I don't know them off
Okay.
the top of my head. So like self-help books.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know
Or
the names. Mhm.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have to research that, but I will get back to you on that.
I would
Um,
I would like to
Dennis writes, Thomas Broussard has written a series of great books, says Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
And
had Dr. Brossard
Broussard.
a couple years ago. He gave a, presentation about neuroplasticity and sort of taking away that thought that you're only going to improve for 12 months and that's it. And I guess because Dr. Yasmin, you what you were saying about that automatic healing, like nobody ever, I never at least heard of that between that. It was always that's it. That's the amount of time you got. So you got to do better. You got to do better. Or when we started hearing about neuroplasticity, we started hearing about you better use it or you lose it. So, to keep practicing, keep therapy, different things. But I like the list you gave of the thoughts about the prior to the word putting them in order, like which things are most
Priority.
important for the person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Yeah, so definitely. I think I also saw a few people in chat also have a few suggestions. And I wanted to get to what was that?
Well,
Um,
Anne has her hand up.
has her hand
Anne,
up. Go ahead, Anne. Yes.
you're muted. There you
I had to find the right button.
go. Okay.
Lower hand. Okay. I don't know if this the right time to ask this. I have aphasia not from stroke, from a fall in classroom. I was a teacher, and uh, at the time, for year, 2 years, can't find what's wrong, what happening, because aphasia was not identified initially. Because speech is my last modality to rear its ugly head, to talk like this and obviously be slower. For me, it's the other modalities of language use, and neurofatigue triggers so much for me. But I have noticed a pattern, and that is different. But I want to know from this doctor, I can't say all the words. Um, Autism, okay? I know many uh, um, accommodations I use for my special needs students. I recognizing need for them in me, and it makes me wonder all along, how is there a connection, and how do you um, identify or help us different than someone, let's say, that had autism first? Now, that being asked, and I'm not sure it's a clear question, you know how Facebook, you see something, it's Autism Awareness Month, and I saw things that are like, that resonates. And so you share it, and then you get a whole bunch more. And uh, make me wonder how you, uh, if someone had, let's say, undiagnosed mild autism all along, pick up patterns, see whatever along, but you're functioning, and then you have this fall or something, how harder it is to help them, if that uh, complicates it, or did anyone change, was already neurodivergent, and then the fall or stroke, and now how you communicate. And I'm seeing connections. I can't express how I want, but I'm seeing connections, and I'm wondering if Dr. Yasmin, if you are experienced some of this before, like not just neurotypical, then stroke, now need help with aphasia. What if autism, or then stroke or injury and need help?
Yes, a very good question, because anybody could have a stroke. Anybody could have a traumatic brain injury like you did, and after a fall. And that's like you said, it could be people who have a prior diagnosis, autism, learning disability, whatever it is, epilepsy, and then on top of that, they have the stroke or the brain injury. And of course, they can be diagnosed as having aphasia. It's just, it's very important for the family who go for the evaluation to inform the speech pathologist and the doctors that this person already had a diagnosis and whatever that diagnosis was, because they're going to adjust how they evaluate the person now that they know that this person might have had a prior condition. So how they evaluate and interpret the scores will change. But it's, of course, like you said, anybody can have aphasia.
And if previously undiagnosed autism and you see things, pictures,
Mm-hmm.
instructions differently in auditory processing, flooding of senses, ADHD, all these things went undiagnosed for girls in particular.
Yes.
So if that undiagnosed, it can skew how your doctors interpret aphasia, because aphasia is not just speech.
Yes.
And so that complicates things. How often you encounter that?
It's rare. And
Yeah.
it's rare because all these conditions are less common than not having any condition. So you use the word neurotypical. Neurotypical is somebody who doesn't have a diagnosis. And then you use the word neurodivergent. I'm just repeating the word so everybody is on the same page. Neurodivergent is somebody who has a diagnosis like ADHD or autism. Now, in the world, there are 90%, 90 to 95% who don't have a diagnosis, of people who don't have a diagnosis. And then a smaller percentage, 5 to 10, have some diagnosis. Now, everybody has the same chance of having a stroke or a brain injury, but because there are fewer people with a diagnosis, you see that less common that they have a diagnosis and they have aphasia.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Among the topics that we have on the slide here, is there any that one wants as a popular demand, given that we have just a few minutes left? There's can drugs, I can read them for you. Can drugs boost language recovery? Why singing can unlock speech? How much therapy is enough? What about brain stimulation? What about stress reduction? And then the recovery one we already did. Any
The,
popular?
the brain
Brain stimulation.
stimulation.
Yeah.
Look at that. Two of you want that. Okay, let's go there. So, how many of you know? Let me see, which is that slide? Here is brain stimulation question. So first of all, let's say, what is brain stimulation? So we all know speech therapy. I think we are all familiar with what speech therapy is. Now, there are two ways which people can actually think you can encourage your brain to do things in a certain way. So that's called brain stimulation. So one way, this one here, TDCS. The most important word there is current. So in TDCS, they provide a small electric current. It's safe. It's FDA approved. You cannot like zap somebody or something. It's very small current. It You attach the electrodes on the side, and a small current goes through your brain. That's TDCS. And then TMS, the key word here is magnet. So similarly, you put a magnet, like a strong magnet, outside your brain. Okay, so neither of these you're not going inside the brain. Both of them are outside. One is current, the other one is magnet. Both of them have the impact, the effect of changing how the neurons in your brain fire. So that's what they're doing. You know, our brain cells or neurons, they fire by electricity. They are electrical current. We have like millions of neurons in our brain, and they're all sending small electrical currents. So by using TDCS, they say, okay, I can make my neurons fire more. That's how TDCS works. Magnetic, there are two opposite ways. One, you can make your neurons fire more, but most of the time, the magnet stops your neurons from firing. So that's how it works. Now, what about its effect on people with aphasia? There are TMS, the magnetic one. You know, it has been used since the 1990s. So 30 years it's being used in research. Very important. It's in research. TDCS, about 20 years. It's, newer, 30 years and 20 years. So we have many, many, many studies on using TDCS and TMS with aphasia. Bottom line is they don't help without speech therapy. So you need to have speech therapy along the way. So for example, if I put the TDCS on my head, just walking around with the TDCS on my head is not going to do anything. I need to be engaged in speech therapy at that time. So we know speech therapy helps. Maybe helps you go from here to here. TDCS may help you go from here to maybe a little bit higher. That's a small effect. Same with TMS. So bottom line is TDCS and TMS don't work on their own. They work with speech therapy, but they don't produce the significant amount of gain that you get with speech therapy. Just a little bit more, like a 1%, 2%, just a little bit more. There's research going on, but at this point, we just don't know enough to say that it helps.
I've done both of them.
And what
And
was your experience?
um, well, I think that, of course, it's like you said, it's not going to work by itself. You know, you have to have therapy, but you
Hmm.
also have to work hard too. So, you have to, I think it helped uh, doing it. And I know that there was words that I couldn't say in the beginning, and then I was able, by the end of it, I was saying them more more accurate. More, I could do it better. Uh,
Hmm.
and but you know, it's hard to say. I think it helped, but having therapy, maybe the therapy is doing it, you know, but I just think but I think it helped.
Yes, yes,
May I may I ask a question?
sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt. But since you said that, Mark,
Yeah.
as you know, I'm really interested in the testing. I've had none of that. But you said you work hard.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you mean you work hard
Well,
with or during the testing, or
Yes.
you work hard by going oftenly on an often basis?
okay. No, well, when one of them, I was there for 2 weeks, uh, every day, like
Oh,
five days and then 5 days again. And, and so, but, when you're doing, doing a therapy and trying to say the words and everything, you could say, well, I need a break. I need this or I need that, like so. But you got like I'm exhausted when I'm done, because I'm working and working, trying to get things done, just to be able to do it. So, I think that you have to really uh, engage with your brain while you're doing it.
That is true. Yes. And right now, I saw some questions in the chat, so I just wanted to
Sure.
answer that TDCS and TMS at this moment are just research tools. So universities, hospitals, they're trying it out. They have been trying them out for 20 to 30 years, like I said. And so it's not for private practice or for your clinic to use. Now, and they're not supposed to be like that. They're at this point, there isn't um, so much evidence for the FDA or anybody to recommend that it should become common practice, like in the clinic. So they're still research tools. And I agree with what Mark said, that it's hard work. It's hard work because therapy is hard work, right? And that's what it is, So you're sitting or participating and you have the device on you and you're practicing words. Also, as you can see, it does say it improved naming and fluency. And here also, TDCS also says this. But as you know, if you've participated in research studies, you know that there might be a list of 20 or 30 words that are your therapy words, and you practice those, or you practice a list of 20 or 30 sentences, and that's what you keep practicing. And we know and somebody wrote in the chat, practice, practice, practice helps. So right now, what we see is that those practiced words help and get better with brain stimulation compared to just therapy alone. So they improve with therapy, they improve more with therapy plus brain stimulation. But the effects are not yet as dramatic, and that's why it has not become common practice. Because if this technology has been around for 20 to 30 years now, and we're still not using it on the daily as clinical practice, it means that the evidence is there, but it's not strong enough to allow to justify the cost of it. I know, William, do you have your hand up?
Yes. I would like to mention one book because someone had asked about periodicals. It's called The Brain That Heals Itself. And I cannot remember the author's name, but it has to do with the
I have the book, and I'll put
okay.
that down for
All right.
we have that in our library, so yeah, we'll
Okay.
get that out.
Secondly, I did a lot of volunteering because I couldn't drive anymore and I couldn't work anymore in the business I was in. And I cheated. I stole a lot of time while I was sitting around waiting for one of the therapists to tell me, Bill, can you get me a towel? And I'm observing all of the other stroke patients that are in that room and how they're being treated, whether it be by walking, talking, whatever the case may be. To me, that was a great, made me feel damn good. Number one, that I'm sitting in and I'm assisting them also at the same time. But I really picked up and helped my language for me. And
Alert
then,
from Yahoo. Password required.
And you, back to you, pal. And then I also started advocating. And until the unfortunate pandemic, I had seen 200 groups and over 13,000 people in stroke etiquette and stroke education. So if you've got the time to put yourself out there, which is going to, I assume, assist you in the long run, I'm going to try to take advantage of that as much as you possibly can. And one last thing, and I know I'm going to piss a lot of people off, but Mark, you had 32 participants, which is great work. You do a great job. But what I've always found in all of the different groups all over the country that I belong to, these chats, unfortunately, when you're trying to comprehend what's going on and you're trying to store
That's mine.
Bruce.
They're going to be they're still going to be doing it, not me.
Yes. Pardon my French. I'm done.
No more French.
But that's true, right? The chats are distracting. That is true. But that's one way of getting your turn in and asking a question. So yeah, I find that too as well at work, that the chats can be distracting. But at the same time, it gives everybody a chance to express themselves, especially if speaking is slow.
Froze again?
And then, Mark and Denise, let me know if we should continue or how this goes. So with music, how many of you listen to music? How many of you enjoy music? I see
Yeah.
a lot of hands. And
Yeah.
what does it do to you?
Makes me feel good.
Yeah, relaxed, happy, right? It
Yes.
lifts your emotions, it calms you.
Yes.
So Listening to music has many, many emotional benefits. So continue to do that. I think so there is speech and language benefits, emotional benefits, right? There are two different things. So even in people with Alzheimer's disease, they have looked at the effect of music. They have looked at it in aphasia too. Music has benefits in terms of listening. And if you are already somebody who played an instrument, getting back to playing it, getting back to humming, it reduces your stress, your anxiety, it uplifts your mood, it helps you exercise, it helps you walk faster. So listening to music, do keep it up. Really, really good. Now the other question
Reminds me
is,
of old girlfriends.
the other thing is um, the part about does singing. So listening is done. Listening is good, helps with your emotions, stress, all of that. What about singing? Does singing help you speak? Right? That's the question, because there is some idea that, oh, people with aphasia can sing better than they speak. So can that be used? So let's go to that first part. People with aphasia can sing. Why? Because many of the songs that they sing, they have been singing all their life. Happy birthday, the 1960s rock and roll, whatever it is, they have been singing those already. So those words are memorized in your brain. So that's why you're able to sing well. Because you're not able to sing new songs. We're not talking about new songs. It's the songs that you have sung many, many times. You have hummed many, many times. You know the lyrics. They are memorized. So when you have aphasia, making your own speech is harder, but then singing something that was already in your memory is easy. So that's why people with aphasia can sing better. Now, does it help with speech therapy? It only helps a small number of people. These are people who actually have, in addition to their aphasia, they have apraxia of speech. So when people have apraxia of speech, the rhythm of singing, like the tapping, the regular rhythm, that helps them. So it's not necessarily the song. You could still, tap, and it helps them bring out their speech because they have apraxia of speech. For other types of singing therapy, like somebody wrote MIT, melodic intonation therapy, and things like that, the evidence is very weak. If you look at the research, those people got 120 hours of melodic intonation therapy before they showed a small gain in their
Oh
speech,
gosh.
right? So every time people say, oh, MIT works and it works. Yes, it works, but it's after like 6 months
Yeah.
and 120 hours, right? So I think that's the part that's getting missed, is
Okay.
that it only helps people who have motor problems, apraxia of speech. And the reason it helps is because of the rhythm. Each syllable at a second kind of gives you a rhythm to kind of follow. And that some people can do by just tapping. They don't need the MIT. And many speech therapists, as well as people, find it hard to sing along. So it doesn't help everybody. It helps apraxia of speech. The effects are small compared to the dosage. How many 100 hours, 90 hours? If you look at the details in the article, it's a lot of therapy. So that's kind of, I think, the bottom line about music is listen to it, enjoy it, use it to sing along familiar songs, with your family, chorus singing, all of that is great. But using it as a means of speech therapy is limited.
And
And
is there a different slide that you're doing right now? Because I'm still seeing the
the TDCS,
yes.
um,
I
I
think
kind
she's
of,
just speaking spontaneously. That's
I'm,
what I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
yes, I was, because I was trying to monitor the chat as well.
Okay. All right. And I think Anne has a question. I thought Anne had a question.
I have to remember how to turn on each time I show. Yes, the music, Dr. Yasmin, and the person who asked it. I hear what you're saying, Dr. Yasmin. I want to share two patterns I've noticed. I used to direct several choirs and sing. Um, uh, Someone also asked about neurofatigue, and this kind of ties in. When I have experienced Bible study, the songs we sing, the screen with the words on the screen, we sing along, right? But when the world scrolls on the screen and it's fast paced, fast tempo, my brain shuts down faster when it's fast words, fast pace around me, driving highway, reading highway direction signs fast, shuts my brain down fast, really rapidly. But that is a cause and effect. Maybe others will notice that too. That is a processing time involved. But like a cell phone battery, your brain, um, your certain apps run your battery down faster than others. Fast paced, I think, shows us down more, increases neurofatigue more, and then my speech deteriorates and I can feel the pain. But also, that's that point. The other point I'm trying to strain hold of it is the dance with aphasia. Aphasia Recovery Connection a couple years ago, pre-COVID or after COVID, I don't remember how long time. They did it every Tuesday afternoon. And I was thinking, oh, don't know this is helping me because I wasn't connecting the dots in my brain until one day I had something kind of like a Helen Keller, Amy Sullivan Wawa moment. And because of the word between, and this is what they would do, they would give flashcards of words, and then let's just say the word was between. So you read the card between in your head silently, and then you saw everybody say the word between. And then we practice moving our hands around things, a cup or whatever around us, and then between our hands, and the music is playing. So there's a word to describe that therapy. Don't know the word, the noun for it, but all of a sudden I just had this light bulb moment, and all of a sudden the meaning of word between, even though I was doing it, reading it, speaking it, the meaning of the word sunk in very differently for me. And I don't know how to describe it, except it was an overall, maybe immersive kind of thing, but it was helpful. So maybe Dr. Yasmin, you could speak to that aspect of it, the
Yes.
movement, dancing, cross the
Yes.
midline.
Yes. So going back a little bit, I think I saw a message in chat by Denise about abstract words. So, if you think about words like between, the word that Anne was saying, it's an abstract word compared to apple. When you say apple, you have an image in your mind. You have the feeling, the texture of, it's a concrete word. It's like has an image, it has a taste, it has a feeling. And so concrete words like that, apple, book, ball, cup, water, these words are easier for people with aphasia to learn and recover. Then there are these abstract words that are used in grammar, but they don't have an image, right? Between, the, under, those kinds of words. So sometimes people need different ways to figure out the meaning and learn those words. So speech therapists use different techniques to help people with aphasia understand and learn those words. So what Anne is saying is being engaged in the action of going between helped her click the meaning of between. So it's called multimodality, right? Modality is words, actions, drawing, all of that, and you're using multiple modalities to get to the meaning or to remember these words. It's particularly used for reading therapy as well, because I know some people with aphasia might have trouble with reading. And there too, people use imagery and all of that to better read abstract words.
So it wasn't the music.
I don't think so. It was just that you were acting it out, right? You were acting the action of going between. So it helped.
Okay. Thank you.
Because we have a slide, I'll just put an example here in the notes. So look at the word be. I have to be somewhere, right? Be versus the word be. The word bee, the little bug that flies and buzzes around, that's concrete, right? Because we know what it looks like, we hear it, and maybe some unfortunate of us have had a sting as well. So bee is abstract, is concrete. Whereas this bee that we use in the language has no image. And people with aphasia find it easier to read and remember the concrete bee, the buzzing little insect, than the abstract bee. So sometimes when somebody has a reading problem or alexia, the speech therapist will use this concrete word, a picture of that word, as a cue to help with this abstract word. So that's what multimodality is. It's, abstract words, we need to sometimes use those different ways. It could be action, it could be gesturing, it could be, dancing, but it's really about that. Should I stop sharing?
Yeah,
How are we
yeah,
doing for time?
yeah. I think I think that everybody's really enjoying the session, but I think it's getting. We'll probably have to wrap it up now, but thank you very much. It's
This was
so
awesome.
yeah,
We need a phase part 2.
yeah. Well,
Been
yes, and
Ditto.
this was a great session. Thank you, Dr. Yazim. Thank you.
You can just call me Yasmin by my first
Okay.
name.
Okay.
It's
All right, Yasmin.
like the flower jasmine, but with a Y, Yasmin.
Yes.
Yasmin. Well, thank you, Yasmin.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
You're
Ditto.
welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you all, and I loved the questions you asked. And anytime, I'm happy to be back.
Great. And
We want to bring you back.
yes. And definitely, we're going to talk about. We're still working on with Yasmin and Mac for caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Good.
How I find you all again?
uh, I'll put my I will put my email address on the chat. Is that okay?
I try. Email hard for me. I try. I don't know how I found y'all. I'm glad I found y'all.
Yeah. Let me see.
Tell me your phone. Do you have a phone number?
Yes.
If you don't mind saying it out loud, we'll get in touch with you through that.
I say it to you. Yes. 434-480-0652.
Okay, we got you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you again. Denise has just real quick.
Just a few little what are these called? Announcements.
Housekeeping.
Yes,
Housekeeping.
that's
Housekeeping.
it. I was trying to think of
Yes.
that and I couldn't come up with it. Housekeeping. Yes.
I'll go back to the slides. And
We got some new people here too tonight.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah, it was
folks.
a good group.
Well, thank you again. Was really great, and and I'm going
Okay.
to send this out to everyone because we try to encourage people to read again after a stroke. So if you want to, Denise, you can talk about that, and then we can go to the next ones.
Yeah, so the conversation, when we'll come back to it for time again. We were going to discuss flowers, but I could talk for hours about flowers and gardening. So we'll save it. We'll save it for the next one. The
Okay.
next announcement is MAAC abroad.
Yeah.
Woohoo! We're going to Colombia. So we're going to have a special guest on May 7th. This will be 2 p.m. Eastern time here. Okay, 2 p.m. I know usually we do things on a certain day at a certain time, but we're going abroad. So on that day at 2 p.m., please meet us. We're going to meet Carolina, and I think her last name is, I can't pronounce it. But anyway, Carolina will be there, and the name of their aphasia group is Afacio, if that's how you say it, Vital. Aphasia Vital. I don't know. On May 11th, we have a special guest. This is a good friend of mine from South Carolina. I met Rick in a support group from the University of South Carolina. This man is he's an incredible artist. He'll make you think a lot about Jen because just like Jen, Rick did not do painting until after his stroke, and you've got to see some of his music. I mean, his art. He also is a musician, singer. He's had some issues with his throat and things after the stroke, but it'll be a beautiful session on that May 11th. That is our second Monday. So we're going to be on Thursday, the 7th, with Carolina, and then on Monday, the 11th, we'll be with Rick. The next slide, this is the name, not the name. This is a event that is coming on May 23rd. I, myself, and seven other persons, we've incorporated a nonprofit, and our whole thing is what we can do to provide for people with aphasia who've had a stroke and have aphasia. And what we're doing is raising money for computers, Wi-Fi hotspots, and subscriptions of Wi-Fi for people who do not have those things at this time. Like you guys have it because you're on the Zoom right now, but there are lots of people in the area who do not have Wi-Fi, do not have access to a computer, and they cannot connect with us. So that's one of the things that we're doing. We're having Dr. Riva Zimmerman from University of Westchester University. She's our keynote, and we're going to have a fabulous gourmet buffet luncheon. There'll be some entertainment, raffles, and everything. When you get the slides, if you're interested in the ticket, you can just scan. If you're not available, you can just, say, have a good time. We hope you have a good time with that. There may be still some free tickets available. If you are interested, Denise Mendez is my name. My email is the same right there. morethanaphasia@gmail.com. This is in the Gwinnett area, Montgomery County, not too far from Abington, around there. If you have can transfer, get there for that, let me know. We may be able to help you with the tickets. The tickets are a little pricey. I'll say that because it's a gourmet dinner, luncheon at the historical William Penn Inn. But we would love to have you there. And again, there are some tickets available for free. The next slide is,
Oops, sorry.
oh, that's all right. No worries.
There you go.
Yeah. Um, I'm realizing now I really shouldn't have a dark background. I really need a white background with dark letters. This is hard. There's a summer program. It's in the local area at the Drexel University. We all call it Salis because that's what it was when, before Drexel bought it. But at the Speech Language Institute, we will meet in the summer twice face to face on May 15th, face to face, and then two more times in May virtually on the Zoom, and then three times in June virtually, and then on July 10th virtually on the computer, and on July 17th, we'll meet again face to face. If you are interested, here's the contact. The topics will be trivia, history, music, travel, and all kinds of things. And we'll have opportunity to have conversation and share our insights and experiences. It looks to be a good time. I will be there as long as I'm in town. I plan to be there. So hopefully you will as well. I thank each one of you for being with us for this evening. This was a fabulous, fabulous session. Thank you so much, Dr. Yasmin. This was wonderful. I mean, great information. It just made so clear sense. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you hear things and it's just a little too sciency and you can't quite get it. This was beautiful. Thank you very, very much. And thank you to each one of you who were here. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.